कि जिंदगी मेरी सौ ख्वाहिशां, हाय कि जिंदगी मेरी सौ ख्वाहिशां, मैं पूरी करूं जिंदगी।
Hello. In today's video, we'll be solving some problems. One or two problems are those which I had already left unsolved from the previous video, and there will be some new problems. Now some of you might be, no, not problems, give me theory. No, right? I know it's like some of us will have a tendency to sort of not going for it for the problems, right? But trust me, like I said already, if you haven't done problems in physics, you haven't done physics at all. Trust me on that, okay? And don't worry, initial problems will be very simple. From there we'll slowly go on building. Today's problems will be basically NCERT level problems, okay? So let's get on with it. And two problems that I had left unsolved, first I'll solve those, then one or two new problems we'll try to solve, okay? All simple problems, but yet very fundamental and effective problems, okay? Yeah, so one of the problems that I gave in previous video was this, that you have, and by mistake I had said in previous video as a equilateral triangle, not equilateral triangle. You have a right angle triangle of side 4 meters, 3 meters, 5 meter, and we have placed 3 charges at the corners of at the vertices of this triangle. One is 1 microcoulomb, this one is 2 microcoulomb, and this one right here is 3 microcoulomb. The question was to find the net force on this charge due to the other 2 charges. Okay, find the force on this charge due to these 2 charges was the question. Okay, for this we are going to use only 2 things. One, of course, Coulomb's law. Without Coulomb's law you can't find force. And second concept we'll be using is principle of superposition. Fancy name, don't worry. What is principle of superposition? It says that force between 2 charges does not get affected by the presence of third charges or fourth charge or fifth charge. And based on this principle, we have a very important concept that is being developed, which says, please listen to this carefully, that force on one charge due to multiple other charges is the vector sum of individual forces. Okay, that's the conclusion that we make from principle of superposition, right? So here looks like the question is, you want to find the force on this charge due to these 2 charges, right? And looks like all of them are positive charges. So force, the nature of force is going to be only repulsive. Meaning, I'll just redraw this in a little smaller scale. Because I'll be needing a place to show forces. Okay, so you have a 3 microcoulomb. You have a force of 3 microcoulomb here. There's a charge of 2 microcoulomb, a charge of 2 microcoulomb, and a charge of 1 microcoulomb. This distance of course is 5, this is 4 meters, and this is 3 meters. You want to find force on this charge due to other 2 charges. Now please listen. I think this charge is going to repel this charge. Meaning, please listen, this charge will be pushing this charge away from it. So force due to this on this will be in this direction. And since I am interested in this charge, my force vector will start from that charge and will be directed in whatever direction the force will be experienced, right? Let me call that force F1. So F1 is in this direction. F1 is the force between 2 microcoulomb and 3 microcoulomb charge. Okay. This charge wants this charge get away from it, go away from it, right? So this charge will be repelling this charge along the line, except the force will be in this direction. Let's call this force F2. This is F1, this is F2. If this angle is theta, this angle will also be theta because they are vertically opposite angles, right? We'll work on theta in a minute. Why do we need theta? Because very soon my net force is going to be looking like this. That is under root F1 squared plus F2 squared plus 2 F1 F2 cos theta. I hope you remember this, right? Resultant of 2 vectors in case of parallelogram law of addition. right? So the parallelogram that I'm talking about will look something like this. My resultant force will be this. Resultant force is going to be this. Okay, and to find that resultant force, net force, it will be F1 squared plus F2 squared plus 2 F1 F2 cos theta, right? Fine. Let's see now. First I need to find F1 and F2 individually, right? So F1, I hope you remember Coulomb's law. What does Coulomb's law say? Force between any two charges, Q1 and Q2. If the charges are Q1 and Q2, then the force is Q1 K Q1 Q2 by R squared, where R is the distance between the charges, right? If I use this formula for F1, F1 is this force. So K, okay, Q1 and Q2, this is Q2, this is Q1 for this force, right? So K, Q1, Q2, but don't forget the micro part. Micro into micro is 10 to the power minus 12. K, Q1, Q2 by R squared, 4 squared, which is 16. And now it looks like I've been substituting all the values. I might as well substitute the value of K also. What's the value of K? 9 into 10 to the power 9. So 9 into 10 to the power 9. Simplify this, you'll get some answer. So 2, 8, 9 3 is 27, 27 by 8 into 10 to the power minus 12 into 10 to the power 9 is 10 to the power minus 10 to the minus 3 Newton. So F1 is 27 by 8 into 10 to the power minus 3 Newton. Similarly, let's calculate F2. F2 will be, F2 if you want to calculate, F2 will be force between these two charges, which is 1 and 3. K value anyway is 9. So I'm going to use this formula. Look at this please. So K is 9 into 10 to the power 9 into Q1 1 microcoulomb, Q2 3 microcoulomb into 10 to the power minus 12, because micro into micro is 10 power minus 12, divided by R squared. This R is 5 meters. So 5 squared is 25. If I simplify this, I don't know, 9 3 is 27, 27 by 25. 27 by 25 into 10 to the power minus 3 Newton is force F2. So you got your F1, you got your F2, but to get the final answer, to get the net force, you need F1, you need F2, and you need cos theta. You need cos theta. Let's work on cos theta also. So cos theta, if you remember a little bit of trigonometry, cos theta is always going to be adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Adjacent by hypotenuse. You are looking for this angle, cos of this angle. But cos of this angle will be cos of this angle. And cos of this angle is adjacent 4 divided by hypotenuse 5. So cos theta is actually 4 by 5 in this question, right? So you have your F1, right? You have your F2 and you have your cos theta, right? Can I substitute the values in this and get the answer directly? Yes, the question was only this. Find the force on this charge due to these two charges. Now, you will be making a huge mistake if you are adding these two forces, simply adding these two forces, that is 27 by 8 plus 27 by 25. If you just add them, you will be adding the magnitudes, but you can't add magnitudes like that. You can add magnitudes of forces like that only when both the forces are in the same direction. Are they in same direction here? No, no. Look at this. F1 is in this direction, F2 is in this direction. What do we do in such cases? Use the resultant formula for resultant of two vectors, which is root of, for any two vectors A and B, it will be root of A squared plus B squared plus 2AB cos theta, where theta is the angle between vector A and vector B. Okay? Fine. So I think you can substitute these values and get the answer. It's just trivial calculation that is left, only mechanical calculation that is left now. Substitute this square plus substitute this square plus 2 times this into 4 by 5, because 4 by 5 is cos theta. Please substitute all them, and then you will be needing calculator for this, unless you know square root of many, like you're good at algebraic calculation, you can go ahead without calculation also. Okay, fine. So that's how you solve the question that we asked in the previous class. Okay, fine. I'll erase this. I've used water, that's why the chalk is not going. The board is little wet. I hope you understood that problem. Now, next problem will also be one of the problems that I gave in previous class, but I never solved it. Okay, pretty simple question. Again, principle of superposition, but please do listen to this problem carefully. Okay, fine. Let's see. Look at this question. Question went something like this. There is a charge Q and there is another charge of 2Q separated by a distance of R. And both are for some reason I used capital Q. I'm going to continue with capital Q. Okay. Okay. Another charge Q, which is equal to minus Q by 4. You have this charge with you. You have this charge with you, right? The question was, where should you place this charge on the line joining these two charges so that the net force on this charge becomes 0. That was the question. Where you want to place this charge with the minus Q by 4, where you want to place this charge on the line joining these two charges such that the net force on this charge becomes 0. Okay, that was the question. So let's start with this. Let the charge, whatever Q was, let the charge be placed at a distance of x from this charge such that your net force is going to be 0. Now actually, like, you have to first decide. Along the line joining the charges doesn't mean only the point between the charges. No, it could be on the right side of the system or it could be on the left side of the system, right? So you have to decide whether it will be on the right, left or center or in between. Okay, you have to decide that. Now for that, my logic would be this. Please listen. Let's say this charge is Q. The other charge you already have is 2Q. This charge is repelling this charge while applying force in this direction. Let's call that force F1. Right? Now, if you want to have any hope of making net force 0, I think the force due to new charge should be in this direction. Only then there is a hope that this force, the existing force, will get cancelled by the new force. Hey, what if you place the new charge here, say minus Q by 4? If you place minus Q by 4 on this side, this minus Q by 4 will again attract this charge. Right? Again getting the force in the same direction. So there is no hope in that case that the force will get cancelled. So something tells me clearly that minus Q by 4 cannot be on this side, cannot be on the left side of the system. Because if it is on the left, the force due to this charge will be attractive. It will be attracting this charge. So this charge will also experience force in the same direction. Therefore, never being able to cancel the existing force. I hope you understood that. Right? So that's why something tells me, I see a hope of force getting cancelled only if I place minus Q by 4 to the right of this charge. So that this charge, look at this, negative, this is positive. This charge is going to attract this charge. Therefore, that force will be in this direction. Let's call that force F2. Right? Right? And now it is not very complicated, right? If F2 becomes equal to F1, F2, F1, if they are equal, net force is 0. Right? You only have to find the appropriate distance. So let that distance which you are looking for is x. Let it be x. Right? And all you need to do now is take the condition given in the question. What's the condition given in the question? Net force on this charge is 0. When does the net force on that charge become 0? When these two forces become equal to each other. Right? Or vector addition of these two forces is 0. For example, net force on this is, please listen, F1 plus F2 should be 0. F1 the vector plus F2 the vector should be 0 because net force, how do you find net force on a single charge? Vector addition. Right? Now choice is yours. Either you take right side as positive, then left side becomes negative. Or if you like left side as positive, then the right side becomes negative. Right? I'll go with, for some reason, I'll go with the choice of left side being positive. So that makes force F1 positive. So when you're removing the vector and only going for magnitude, F1 will become positive. Plus, if F1 is positive, F2 must be negative. So F1 plus minus F2 is 0 or F1 is equal to F2. right? When these two forces, this is just a one way of showing you that I'm still using vectors. You don't have to go through all this. All you have to say is to get the net force 0, F1 should be equal to F2. That's enough. This is only for fundamental understanding. But even if you start from here, you are good to go. Okay, fine. So F1 becomes equal to F2. Okay, let's calculate F1. F1 is K Q into 2Q divided by R squared. Right? F1 is the force between this charge and this charge. How much will that force be? K Q 2Q by R squared. That distance, initial distance, R squared. This force, when it becomes equal to the other force, the force, net force on this charge will be 0. So what's the net force? What's the force due to this charge? Force due to this charge on this charge is K Q into Q by 4 divided by X squared, and you want to find the value of X. Now some of you might be wondering, why am I not using minus Q by 4 here? Why am I simply using Q by 4? Why not minus? I have told this clearly, and please listen to this for the second time. I'm telling you this, very important. Don't use the sign of the charge while using Coulomb's law in scalar form. Look at this. Do I have vector form or scalar form? I'm just using the numbers here. I don't have any vector form here. I'm only using numbers. So please don't take the sign also into your calculation. No, it will mess things up. Don't take the signs. Let the signs be the sign. Have I made use of this sign somewhere, the negative charge? Have I made use of that fact somewhere? Yes, in deciding the direction. I'm done with the negativity of the charge. I don't need that negative sign here anymore, right? So the point is, do not use, while using Coulomb's law, do not use negative sign of the charge into your calculation. Even if it is negative, even if it is minus Q by 10, it's just Q by 10 in your calculation. Minus 5 Coulomb, it's just 5 in your calculation, right? Plus, so anyway, you don't have to worry, because positive will be positive only anyway, right? So all I have to do is simplify this and get the value of X. That is where, once I get the value of X, that is where I need to place a charge of minus Q by 4 such that the net force on this charge will become 0. One step close to our answer. We just one step away, in fact, from our answer, right? So if I solve for X, that will be my answer. Let's quickly get it done with. K gets cancelled, Q gets cancelled. I'm left with, what am I left with? 2 by R squared is equal to 1 by 4X squared. So I'm getting, if you see carefully, I'm getting X squared is equal to, if I cross multiply, X squared is equal to R squared by 8. X squared is equal to R squared by 8. Am I right? Yeah, looks like it. X squared is equal to R squared by 8, or X equal to R by 2 root 2. X is equal to R by 2 root 2. So at such a distance, I need to place a charge of minus Q by 4 such that the net force on this Q charge will become 0. I hope you understood this. Typical general questions, standard questions these are. Okay, and what principle did we, what law did we use? Of course, Coulomb's law, because that's the only one proper law we have learned so far. Coulomb's law, and along with Coulomb's law, we use principle of superposition. Do you have to remember the fact that you use principle of superposition while doing the problem? No. You just need to know what's going on. What's the principle of superposition to solve problems? Once you do enough number of problems, you will not even be worrying which principle you used, right? It naturally comes to you. You don't have to think, oh, I'm using Coulomb's law right now. No, you don't have to. Automatically these things will start coming. But for that, do enough number of problems. And I think these problems pretty simple, right? This problem was pretty simple. In the beginning, you would think, what's going on here? But once we solve, I think this problem turned out to be pretty simple. And trust me, that's the case with any problem. Right? Don't be scared of the problems. Trust me, don't worry how am I going to solve this problem. Get the problem, attack the problem. Like you know that you're going to do this problem because there are enough data. Trust me, in any problem, enough data. In fact, sometimes more than enough data is given in a problem to solve the problem. All you have to do is know the right things to solve the problem and concepts. Develop the concepts. And how do you develop the concepts? Read the concept. Read the theory, do problem. You're not able to solve problem, go back, read the concept again, come back and solve the problems. Because trust me, in the beginning, like while we are dealing with the theory part, we will never give you a problem which concept for which we have never taught you. Trust me on that, right? So based on the concept we have recently learned only, we will be asking question. Okay, fine. Good. So these are the two problems that we discussed in previous class. There are still many standard problems that are left. Please listen. Next problem is pretty interesting. This is a nice one. Okay. Remember on day 1, on first video of electrostatics, we discussed types of charging, methods of charging. I think it was second video if I'm not wrong. Methods of charging. Right? And one of 3 methods were charging by friction, charging by contact, charging by induction. In that, something we learned about charging in contact. When you bring an uncharged object in contact with the charged object, the uncharged object gets charged. Right? That's what we learned. One question based on that concept is next one. Please listen. This is an NCERT question, except the numbers are different. Variables are different, but yeah. Interesting. Listen. You have a charge Q here, a spherical ball, which already has a charge of Q, coulombs. And you have placed near to it another charge, identical charge, another spherical identical charge, whose charge is Q coulombs. The centers of these two charges are separated by a distance of r. Centers of these two charges are separated by a distance of r. In this case, the given force, the force is F. The force is given as F. Okay, don't worry. How much is F? No, F newtons is the force. Now the question starts. There is an identical sized, identical sphere. You have an identical sphere of same size, except the charge is 0 on this sphere. The charge is 0. Okay. Now what you're doing is, please listen carefully. You take this sphere, bring it in contact with this charge. The question goes like this. Take this sphere which is uncharged and of the same size. It doesn't look, it looks little bigger. But yeah, it's the same size basically. Okay. So you take this sphere which is uncharged in the beginning, take this, bring it in contact, keep it there for a while, take it out, bring this in contact with this, keep it there for a brief, take it out, throw it away. The question now is, what is the new force between these two charges? That's the question. Okay, I quickly will tell you a question immediately. Listen, there is a charge Q, there is a charge Q, two spherical balls of identical size separated by a distance of r. Write this before anything comes. Just focus on this part. Right now, the force is F. Right? Now the question is, if you bring a third uncharged identical ball, bring it in contact with this for a short while, remove it, hold the ball, bring it in contact with this, hold it there for a while, remove it, throw this sphere away. Question is, what is the new force between these two charges? Okay, do you think the force will change or not? First you have to think of that. Okay, if you think the force will change, you are right, force will change. I think it only makes sense. Why? Because I'm thinking, when I bring this ball in contact with this, some of the charge on this will go on this. So this will lose some charges, this will gain some charge. So this charge has gone down. When you bring this in contact with this, some kind of charge transfer will take place. That means this charge will change at least. I don't know it will decrease or increase because this is already charged. But definitely this charge will change. So this charge is decreasing, this charge is definitely changing. So if the charges change, you know, according to Coulomb's law, the force will definitely change. So answer is force will change. The question is, how much is that change? Or the question is, you have to tell the new force in terms of old force. So F dash is some x times F dash is some x times F. You have to find the value of x. How many times is new force compared to old force? And how much is old force? Old force you already know, it is F. And F, if at all you need to know, is going to be F, wait a second, the force F is equal to K Q1 Q2, which is Q squared by R squared. So force is K Q squared by R squared. All you have to do now is find the new force and get the final answer. Okay, and you will not be getting force in terms of some number, you will be getting force in terms of these variables. But then from there you can tell me how many times is the new force compared to old force. You can just try this. The idea is, please listen, idea is, since the balls are of identical size, whenever they are brought in contact with each other, the charge gets split into half, equal halves. Both of them will get same charge. Upon contact, upon bringing them in contact, the charge gets transferred until both the spheres have identical charges on them. So basically you take the average and give the average to both of them, meaning, and this is true only if the balls are of same size. If they are not of same size, I can't use this principle. If they are of different size, then the principle I'll be using is that they have the same potential. But potential we have not learned yet, so we'll talk about potential later once we learn potential. But for now, that's why we have given you simpler problem of having same size. So whenever they have same size, imagine this. Imagine this is a charge of 2 coulomb. This is a charge. This is a sphere of 0 coulomb. 2 coulomb and 0 coulomb. Bring them in contact. Keep them there for a while, and now separate. The new charge on each of them will be 1 1 each. If this is 3, this is 1. Bring them in contact. Separate them. Both of them will have 2 2 each. If this is 8, this is 2. Bring them in contact. Keep them for a while. Separate. 8 plus 2 by 2. Equal amount of charge. I hope you understood, right? So this will have 4. This will have 4. One last question, example. This is 11. This is 3. Or wait, this is 11 and this is 9. 11, 9. Bring them in contact. 20. 20 by 2, 10 10 each. I hope you get the idea, right? Both of them will eventually gain equal charge, which is equal to the mean of both of them, right? So focus on that. Now therefore what will happen is, I think when you bring an uncharged sphere in contact with this, the new charge on this sphere will be, I think will be q by 2, because out of this q, half goes to this, half goes to this. Okay, so this sphere's final charge will be q by 2. What about this charge? It already has q, but wait, now that this charge has q by 2, remember the question was, I bring this in contact with this, then in contact with this, then throw away. So while I had brought this in contact with this sphere which was initially uncharged, now already has a charge of q by 2. When I bring this in contact with this, then the average will be something else. The average will be, please listen, q, already q, plus q by 2 by 2. Q plus q by 2 will be the new charges on both of these, which is 3q by 2 by 2, which is 3q by 4, I think. So 3 by 4 q on this, and final charge on this also will be 3q by 4. I don't care how much charge on this is there in the end, because anyway I'm throwing it away. But the point is that the final charge on this is q by 2 and the final charge on this is 3q by 4. Now I can find the new force. Did I change the distance between them? No, distance between them is still r. And we have thrown this charge away. This has no role. Right? You want to find the new force between these two existing charges. However, the charge has changed. Now I need to find the new force. So new force will be, let me call that new force as F dash, will be K Q1 Q2 by R squared. What is Q1? Q by 2. You are right. What is Q2? 3Q by 4. Right? Let's find that new force. F dash is equal to K Q into Q, Q squared by R squared. Now I'm left with the numbers. 3 divided by 4 into 8. So 3 by 8. 3 by 8 times kq squared by r squared. But wait, isn't kq squared by r squared F? So you can write your answer as new force F dash is 3 by 8 times old force. Did the force change? Yes. Did the force reduce? Yes. Okay? Okay? Fine. I think one small conclusion. I'm not ready to make a conclusion yet, but I see I can notice one more thing. That whenever the charges were identical, the force was F. Whenever the charges are different, the force decreased. Right? Something to think about. Okay, think on this. I give you total of, please listen. I'll give you a total of, say, 9 coulomb of charge I'm giving you. 9 coulomb. You're free to spend it however you like. Okay, I gave you 9 coulomb of charge. How would you distribute this 9 coulomb charge on two tiny point objects? Like you can give 1 coulomb to this and 8 coulomb to this. You can give 2 to this, 7 to this. You can give 5 to, or you can split it in half also. Like you can give 8.25 to this, and then you can give 0.75 to this. Choice is yours. However you want to spend, you spend in fractions, in square roots, in complex sum, whatever you want to. How would you split the charge of 9 coulomb or any q coulomb? I'll not generalize it yet, but I have given you 9 coulomb of charge. How would you split this 9 coulomb of charge between these two charges such that the force between them is maximum? Think on this. Try to get the answer. I'll tell the answer in my next video. Okay. How would you spend a charge of 9 coulomb on 2 point charges such that the force between them is maximum for a fixed distance? For a distance, let's say the distance between them is 1 meter. I'm not going to change that. But you want to get as maximum force as possible between these two charges, and you have the choice to split this 9 coulomb however you like. Like 9 and 0 if you think is going to help you, that won't help because that way force will be 0. But still, if you think 8.9 and 0.1, go for it. If you think 5 and 4, go for it. If you think splitting them in half and giving it will give you the maximum force, go for it. Think of an answer. I'll reveal the answer in the next video. If you already know the answer, very good. Okay, fine. Something to make a conclusion from this. Not a conclusion yet, but one observation you can make from this. Okay, yeah, fine. I hope you understood that question. So new force is 3 by 8 times the old force. Force definitely decreased, right? Yeah, and one important concept we learn from this, guys. Important concept. What's the concept? If you have two identical charges, if you have two identical sized objects, when you bring them in contact, force on each of them will be equal. And how much is that force will be? It will be average of both of these two. For example, initially this was q and this was 0. What's the average of q and 0? Q plus 0 by 2, which is q by 2. So q by 2 on this, q by 2 on this. Then what we did? Q and q by 2. We took the mean. How much is the mean? Q plus q by 2 is 1.5q. By 2 will give you eventually 3 by 4q. So 3 by 4q on this, 3 by 4q on this. Right? What do you do if the sizes are not identical? If they are not identically sized, then you have to go for equal potential. The charge will get transferred until the potential becomes equal. Actually, behind this also the concept is that only. But for the lack of knowledge of potential, I'm telling you this new sentence. What's the new sentence? Charges will be equal. Right? But the fundamental concept behind that, why the charges will be equal to each other, is that the potentials will be equal to each other. Why does the potential has to be equal to each other? Something we'll be learning in current electricity. So it's all connected. They're all connected to each other. Right? Fine.